Okay, Mate, looks like we've got ourselves a private unveiling here. Should we take the covers off?
Yes.
Wow.
This is the Bugatti Tourbillon.
Tourbillon.
Exactly.
Oh, explain it.
So Tourbillon is a mechanism in sophisticated watches that helps to get the time correct. And one of the inspirations behind this car was mechanical watches, because they are beautiful no matter where you look at them, even things you don't see. Even if they don't have a transparent cover on the rear, you know that if you take it apart, that you will have beautiful pieces everywhere, like machined little metal bits. And we think that the Bugatti is the ultimate car, so even things you don't see, you know that we have done everything. We went the extra mile to make it the best possible. We say yes to progress. This car is completely new, so it doesn't share one single component with either the Chiron or the Nevera or any other car. It has zero in common with any of these cars. It's completely from ground up.
So, let's not keep them waiting, anyone that doesn't know. It's a V16 engine, right?
Exactly.
Hit us with the specs. I think you said 8.3
liters of naturally aspirated.
Naturally aspirated. 1,000 horsepower.
1,000 horsepower, 1 meter long crankshaft. And
that's less than a meter. I think a meter's more like this.
I think we men are not so good at predicting this. So also the car is not longer. Actually, that was really important. So when we decided to go with the V16, I talked to the designers and like, why would it be bad if the car was longer? Like, would it maybe be good for the design? And they said, no, please don't make the car longer. So we had to find a way with a much longer engine. This is a lot longer than the W16. It's actually 40 centimeters longer. And it has a big battery, 25 kilowatt hour battery, 3 electric motors, still the same comfort in the car. And despite that, it's just 27 millimeters longer wheelbase.
That's crazy. And the gearbox is at the back of the engine, right? So 8-speed DCT.
Exactly. So the Chiron has the gearbox in front of the engine. And when you sit in the car, you actually notice that because you are sitting quite far away from the passenger. And in this car, we wanted to use that space for the battery, so the gearbox is behind, but it also enables another thing. So for top speed, the most important thing, besides power, is frontal area. Everyone thinks it's drag coefficient, but actually what's even more important is the frontal area, because to get to the total drag force, you multiply the drag coefficients with the frontal area. So what we have done, we narrowed the tunnel. We still have a battery in there, but it's more narrow than the gearbox. So we brought the passengers closer together, still very comfortable, enough elbow room between the passengers. But that meant we could bring the greenhouse closer. And also we brought the whole cabin down so that the car is lower. So the frontal area is greatly reduced for what Bugatti is known for, very high top speed capability. And you can actually see it here when you see the shoulders of the design. So, design is not just drawing on top of a package. It's actually thinking from the beginning, from the ground up, about the package of the car, how it helps to achieve a better design. For example, not making it longer, and for example, having a tighter greenhouse, so you have this muscular shoulders here.
And with the hybrid system, so you've got this, that was a big battery. You just mentioned 26 kilowatt hours?
25 kilowatt hours.
25 kilowatt hours down the center spine of the car. 3 motors, 2 at the front, 1 in the gearbox.
Exactly.
At the back. So what's the total power then?
The total power is 1,800 horsepower.
Okay, so big step from the Chiron.
Yeah, exactly.
But I assume it weighs a lot more.
That's the thing.
You up there.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. So we didn't want to make it longer, and we didn't want to make it heavier, which was really difficult because the battery itself is 200 kilos. It's a very high performance battery, so 25 kilowatt hours is a lot in this kind of car. So all the existing like sports cars, supercars with hybrid systems, they are like an order of magnitude less energy. So we have lots of energy and lots of capacity also for a decent all electric range.
Well, what kind of range are you thinking EV only?
So conservatively 60 kilometers, EV only. But like still with a lot of performance. So you have actually 800 horsepower with the electric powertrain alone.
Four-wheel drive, of course.
Four-wheel drive with the rear electric motor and the 2 in the front. But actually what's important about that is this very high-tech, high-performance electric powertrain enabled a very emotional combustion engine. Because basically when you take the turbos away from the engine, you have less torque, you have less power, right? But we wanted to have this very emotional engine, and for me, emotion is a naturally aspirated engine. Exactly.
Revs.
When already a combustion engine, then something really special.
Yeah.
But that was only possible to have a 1,000 horsepower combustion engine is by no means a weak engine, but a less powerful one than the previous was enabled by the very high performance electric powertrain.
Okay, so 9,000 RPM.
Yes.
And it sounds good. You drove it the other day, right, for the first time?
Yeah, I was concerned at the beginning that it could sound like one V8 or two V8s stick together and just like not be something special, but actually it's totally different. It doesn't sound like V8, doesn't sound like V10, doesn't sound like V12. It's really unique.
So where did the idea for a V16 come from, other than it's a very exotic configuration?
Well, when you start a project like this with a famous brand like Bugatti, you actually have so many opportunities, because in the last 20 years we know Bugatti for hypercars, but actually if you look at the history of Bugatti, you can go any direction. You could go in a luxury car, you can go in a GT, cruiser, and actually there were lots of people who wanted us to go electric. People who were very influential in the Volkswagen group.
Well,
and
you're Mr. Electric Hypercar.
Yeah.
Surely you just rebody a Nevera and you're done.
That was actually the thought of why people wanted to give me Bugatti. We already have
easy peasy.
Yeah, you just rebody the Nevera and you're done. But I thought this was wrong. And the previous management also was working actually on a 4-seater electric Bugatti. So first you have to determine which body style you want to do. Like, do you want to do an SUV, luxury car, whatever? But Bugatti is really there for performance, raising the bar for over 100 years. So I thought we need a hypercar. We need a successor to the Chiron, and then the powertrain. And with Nevera, you know very well what you can do with electric powertrains, and it's really, you can step up the game in many things. But I thought for Bugatti, it's not the time yet. Bugatti needs to be very emotional still with a combustion engine. And then when already a combustion engine, then let's do it special, so naturally aspirated. But like many people told me, you could have got 1,000 horsepower from a very high power turbocharged V8. Or
could you not take the turbos off the W16 and lighter components and?
Oh, we actually looked at that.
Yeah.
So we looked at that as well. Why not keep the W16, right? We already had it, but turns out the W configuration is not that great as a naturally aspirated engine, because you have alternating intake and exhaust lengths between the cylinders. So one cylinder has a long exhaust, a short intake. The next one has it the other way around, so that doesn't really work well with a naturally aspirated engine. So we decided to develop a new one.
Okay, wow. Performance. It's got more power. It weighs less. It's going to go faster. 0 to 60 in
less than 2 seconds.
Less than 2 seconds. And top speed?
So it will be, let's say, customer limited to 445. 445.
What's that in? That's 280 something, maybe, something like that.
Yeah.
But you must have run the simulators on how fast it could go.
Well, let's say there's more in it.
There's more in it. Well, yeah. I mean, a Chiron did over 300, so
yeah.
Do you have any interest in going after that in this car down the line?
Well, Bugatti is about pushing the limits. Let's see.
Let's launch the car first, Jack.
Yeah.
All right, so the styling, you touched on it there, but I think there were people out there that would probably assume you would come out swinging and just create some crazy looking Batmobile because, you're the new boss and it's a new era. But actually it's quite an evolutionary design, isn't it? It's definitely a bloodline from Veyron Chiron to Tourbillon.
Absolutely. So first of all, it's completely new. There is nothing in this car that carries over anything from the previous cars, but we didn't want to, throw all the design history out of the window. So we are very proud that we have very distinct design features in Bugatti, so that you can recognize it's a Bugatti even without a badge, which you maybe couldn't really say about many other hypercars. So the horseshoe, the center line, the C-line on the side, and the two-tone body. So even without knowing this is a Bugatti, you would know this is a Bugatti. So from the outside, it's an evolution, but a big one. If you had now the Chiron next to it, you would see how much of a difference it is, and a lot of it enabled by the package underneath it. So with this car, what I'm really proud of is how the teams have worked together. Frank Heil, the design director, and before him, Achim Anscheit, who retired, and Emilio Scherro, the CTO, and his team. And everyone worked really together to create this, and it feels like it came from one hand, from one person, because the technical package and the design, the interior, all of it fit together. And something that I'm quite proud of on this car as well is the rolling chassis. So usually you have exterior design and interior design, and the stuff between just somehow happens. The engineers just do whatever is easiest or makes technically most sense. But again, Tourbillon, we want it to be special even when it's naked or it's parts. We wanted that also that is something really special, even if the customers don't see it. So we had a third design discipline, which was rolling chassis, and that was really difficult because
rolling chassis designer.
Yes,
Wow. We
yes.
did actually see it in Berlin,
We
and
saw
I
it
do
in
remember
Berlin.
standing next to it going, that is a good-looking rolling chassis. And I think you said it had a clear coat on the carbon, but other than that, that is what lies underneath.
Exactly. Even if the customers just see it when they come here in Molsheim to the atelier where the car is built, many of them won't do that, but still, we want you to know that you can take any piece of the car, put it on the wall, and it's a piece of art.
The chassis is where I wanted to go next, in terms of the carbon monocoque, the stiffness of it. You talked about the suspension. Is there some
Yes.
It's like, here's some suspension I printed earlier.
Yeah, exactly. So here we have some nice pieces that we can have a look at.
Wow. Well, let's start here with the suspension.
Yeah.
Because you collaborated with a company that we actually did a film with
Divergent,
a while ago, Zinger.
Zinger and their company Divergent for 3D printed
There
stuff.
we go. So explain why 3D, apart from the fact that it looks completely mad, it looks kind of organic, like it's made from bone or something. But other than that, what's the engineering benefits of this?
It's lighter and stiffer, very simple, but also it's beautiful. And it's new technology that like people are a bit hesitant to really put in road cars, also because of the complexity and cost and so on. But we were thinking, if not in a Bugatti, then where? You know, this is where you test new technology. I mean, we make sure that it's on the level where it needs to be in terms of durability and all of that, but it gives quite a lot of advantage in weight, and we have a lot of 3D printed parts also in the structure of the car, like the front connecting brace and stuff like that. And then when we look at the interior, you kind of see that reflected as well. We call this a skeletonized central console. So you can see through it, and you here have the most important knobs, and here's where the screen comes out. So the car is very analog, and we want you to be able to run the car without any screen, basically. So the screen pops out if you want it, but most of the time you wouldn't have it. So you actually have to have a screen for regulation. When you drive in reverse, you have to have a reversing camera for safety reasons. So you cannot build a car without a screen.
If that law didn't exist, would you delete it completely?
No, we would, because I hate to see our customers drive in cars with their phone in their hand as navigation. So if you want like Apple CarPlay, you know, it pops out and that's it. So very simple. But this is also cool. So this is machined aluminum, but this is machined crystal glass. So this is not plastic. This is actually crystal glass, which starts as a block and is machined into this shape, and this is super difficult. And this is also a part that you need to homologate, because you do the like head impact. So you fire dummy heads into this and it shouldn't shatter. So
should we give it a go?
Yeah, exactly. Well,
wow.
So
let's have a look at the wheel, because
this is another one.
I've been looking forward to this, because the one in Berlin was essentially just a 3D printed kind of mock-up, wasn't it?
This is real. So here you have like you have machined titanium Rubins. So these are actually bearings, not there for just the sake of having them, but for reducing friction. And everything is analog. There's a little screen up there. And the party trick is it always stays centered. So you have a planetary gearbox in here to enable this, and of course your gear shifters and stuff. But this is the really beautiful piece.
Like a Citroen C4 Picasso.
And not really. Let's not make that comparison.
I'm joking. It's incredible. This must have given you the idea for the Tourbillon name, right?
Yes.
Having this so front and center.
Yeah. One of the first things I did when I joined, we get it and went to Switzerland to visit a few watchmakers and talk about this with them to make this together. And actually, we are building this with a Swiss watchmaker in Switzerland.
And is it a watchmaker you can tell us the name of, or is it a silent partner?
Well, it's actually a great company called Conceptual Watch that makes the mechanisms and the watches for many of the big brands, which don't manufacture their own watches. So many of the brands you perceive as being, making their own watch, it's actually coming from these guys.
I see.
Yeah.
Straight to the source.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So all of these mechanisms you see here behind, these gears and stuff, this is all actually working, and the way the needle moves is through all of these little gears. And what you see here in the center, you have the RPM meter. So you see it goes to 10,000. Then the speedometer going around it. This is quite interesting.
The speedometer goes to 550 kilometers an hour, in case you can't see that.
Exactly.
Just in case.
Yeah. And then the two needles on the right, they show you the combustion and electric powertrain power. So both needles go to 1,000 horsepower, and then you add them up basically. So let's say you are on half throttle, both give 500 horsepower, something like that. You add the two up. And then, interesting, on the left side, you actually have battery state of charge shown in an analog way. I guess that's pretty unique as well.
Yeah. Wow.
One of the things I love about the Chiron, everyone is making these horrible fake exhaust pipes. And Bugatti has this, like the Chiron Sport, for example, has 4 central exhaust pipes, but then they are 2 hidden in the diffuser. So they have more exhaust than they actually show. And here, for example, we have this floating light, and this has a purpose where the air flows underneath it, under this flying buttress, around the shoulder that we were talking about before, and into the air intake to the engine. And since it's a naturally aspirated engine, it can use any kind of compression it can get. So here this whole thing actually contributes a little bit to engine power.
So the more air you can direct into it, rather than around it, more power.
Exactly, but it starts from the front. And this whole car makes a lot of architectural sense. What we see in the rear is this really tall diffuser. But in order to be tall, it has to be super long.
There's an angle, there's like an optimum angle, isn't there?
Yeah, like above 11 degrees, diffusers don't really work anymore. So the air separates from the diffuser at this kind of application. So if it's this tall, it means it started in the middle of the car. And the way to achieve that is like the whole car has to be designed around that idea. So everything has to work together. So a more narrow engine, so you have the Venturi tunnels left and right, and even the engine is angled so that you can do this diffuser.
I can see it from here, now you mention it. It's just tipped down at the front.
Exactly, exactly.
Amazing.
And then you of course have an active wing, but because you have this huge diffuser, you actually, even at top speed, you don't need the wing because the car is aerodynamically balanced. There is no lift with even the wing tucked in like this. But of course we have a big active wing for air brake, but also if you want additional downforce. And then on top of that, we have these exhaust pipes that are not here just for styling. They're actually also separating the airflow, so the clean airflow from underneath the diffuser and the turbulent airflow here, and the exhaust stream kind of nicely separates that.
Kind of like a blown diffuser in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Another cool thing that we could do with this car is the Chiron, and basically any other car, has a rear crash structure, a crash beam, that you then hide with the bumper. So the bumper covers it like it's just a aluminum or steel bar on most cars. And here the diffuser has another function, except being this wonderful diffuser, it's also structural, which means in a rear crash situation, it absorbs the energy so that we could have this wonderful open rear end where you can actually have exposed rear tires.
I love it.
Which looks amazing when you're behind the car.
Yeah, kind of race car vibes. There's so much space around the back of the car. You just get this sense that it's got a lot of air and heat it needs to get rid of this way.
It does.
Yeah.
There's like a big challenge is to get all the heat soaking from the big exhaust systems with unfortunately 4 GPFs. So you have 4 big, particle filters that are somewhat dampening the noise, but there's still plenty of it.
In fact, there's a question I just got reminded of that I didn't ask you earlier. So this engine, this V16, it's Cosworth have built this engine for you. Tell me about the phone call when you phoned up. Is it Bruce Wood?
Bruce Wood,
and at Cosworth, and you said, hey, you might not know me. This must have been way back. So.
Oh, I remember exactly where I was. I was walking down the street in Split in Croatia, and I got the phone number of Bruce, and nobody knew about the Bugatti thing that was going on. And I called Bruce and asked him, you know, Bruce, Mate, you might have heard of the electric cars that we are making, but I'm calling you for something else. I might take over Bugatti and I need a V16 naturally aspirated engine with 1,000 horsepower. Could you do that? That's how it started. No, but actually the cool thing is that it never changed. So since then, phone call, and I'm so glad that we did this with Cosworth. They're really amazing partners. You know, when you work with the best in the world,
Yeah.
you know, I'm a guy who always wanted to do everything myself, everything. You know, the only one crazier is Christian Koenigsegg. So he's building even his own wheels.
Yeah.
Like that's going even to a higher extent than we did before. But with this car, you know, you have Brembo for the best brakes. You have the Cosworth for the engine. You have Rimac's technology for the electric powertrain and so on. So really the best experts for every field. And with Cosworth, it was beautiful to work with. Like, you know, they know what they're doing. This was the direction from the beginning, and you just go. And I was just recently there, and you know, you have the little, I mean, beautiful engines of the Valkyrie and Gordon Murray T50, and then you have this thing next to it, and it looks
the Hulk.
Yes, it's like it looks like a boat engine next to them.
That's fantastic. In fact, there's a little model over here that you brought along.
Yeah.
So we were going down memory lane there. I think that must have been 2020, or was it even earlier than that when you phoned up Cosworth?
That must have been a bit earlier because we made this in June 2020, so 4 years ago, and it already had a V16 naturally aspirated engine here, but you see the original concept was with the hot V. We changed later to a cold V, and it had already the gearbox behind the engine, the electric motor behind, 2 electric motors in the front, and the battery, but this is basically a Nevera monocoque, so obviously that changed. This was like just the first idea.
Was this you playing around with, okay, V16 would be cool, would it fit?
Yeah.
Where would the motors go? Where can I put the battery?
No, this is what I used to speak to the CEO of Volkswagen at the time, hybridised. Like when we discussed about what I would do with the company, I was like, this.
I brought some homework, sir.
Yeah, that was the homework.
That's incredible. So 3.6 million euro.
No, 3.8 million.
3.8
million euros.
Okay,
yeah.
sorry. Oh, damn. Need to earn another 200 grand. 3.8 plus tax?
Plus tax.
Plus tax. And you're going to build 250 coupes, but with the Chiron, then along came the other variants and stuff that made it up to 500.
Well, we'll see. You know, we start shipping this car in 26.
Yeah.
And it will take us 2.5, 3 years to produce those 250 cars. So whatever comes after that is beyond 29.
Okay. We need to have a look inside.
Yes.
You also want to show me the front.
Yes, that's really important to me. So.
Deep.
Yes.
Very deep. You could fit a very small child in there, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now imagine you have a customized bag. Doesn't even have to say it's a Bugatti, but you come with that shape of a bag into an exclusive hotel. And you know, who knows. But another thing that I wanted to show you, not just this, let's say, packaging marvel that we had in the front, but the details. So when you open it up, everything is beautiful carbon. And I'm a bit of a hinge fanatic, so the hinges are machined and anodized aluminum. So even the details that you might not care about or might not notice, we have paid attention to them because it's important. Everything is important.
So these are the ones that the finance guys would want to be off the shelf steel.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter, Mate.
Exactly.
It does
like
matter.
exactly. That's the kind of discussions we have every day.
Should we do it?
Let's go.
Let's open it. Oh, electric.
Yes. And for the first time, with a hydro door in a Bugatti.
Wow, electric. That must have cost some weight.
Oh no, actually the strut is almost the same, and it's a lot better than a gas strut, because gas struts, depending on the temperature, if it's cold outside, of course the air has less density, so the door kind of hangs. When it's very hot outside, it has lots of pressure, so it wants to push the door up, so you cannot get it right. And with these kind of doors, that's why we decided to go for an electric one, to have consistency of how it works.
Just before you even get in, the carbon tub that you can see here is absolutely beautiful. The shapes, the angles, the finish.
Yes. Look at the door.
Yeah, look at that shape.
Craziness.
Craziness, right.
Also reason to have this kind of doors is because we moved the cabin lower in order to have the lower frontal area. So this kind of door opening makes it easier to get in and out.
As you should now demonstrate.
Exactly.
How tall are you?
189.
189 means nothing.
Yeah.
Over 6 foot.
2, I
6
guess.
foot 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So
Right. There is a million things to go through here. You take it away.
exactly, it's a whole revolution. So while on the exterior you can clearly recognize the past, in the interior everything is new, and you see the watchmaking. So the instrument cluster made with a Swiss watchmaker, beautiful details, all the gears and dials, completely analog. So here we have a little compartment where the screen pops up if you like to see it, but if you don't, it's completely
I would like to see
analog.
it. All right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of theatre in itself there. I like the screen isn't too big. I mean, it's dictated by the size of the kind of flying console, but it's just right to not be overpowering and dominating.
Yeah, the idea is to have it very simple. So very simple infotainment, mostly based on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so you don't have to, you know, fiddle around with some kind of infotainment of a car that will be outdated anyways very soon.
Yeah.
So what we were thinking about is how will this car look like in 30, 50, 100 years? Because reality is this car will be around when we are long gone, like most Bugattis are.
I mean, they'll be around forever, right? I mean,
Exactly.
who's going to scrap one of these? Even in 1,000 years, it should be around.
That's what we wanted to make sure, that when you look at this car in 50 years, it's still beautiful. And the screen is more of a necessity. So it's needed for some regulations, but also we wanted people to be comfortable when they travel, to have navigation and so on. But in normal day driving, you don't need it.
Yeah.
Another cool thing is how you start the powertrain. So this is how you activate the powertrain,
Wow.
but this is just hybrid mode. If you want the combustion engine, you pull it out and
Like
then
an
the
organ
combustion.
stop.
Exactly. So in an analog way, you wake up the combustion engine. And then you have the modes. So these are, let's say, chassis and active system modes. Well, these are powertrain modes. So you can choose what you want. So hybrid, so the car decides how to distribute the power. Then you have full electric mode. So it's always going to be electric unless you deplete the battery.
So the engine's not going to be cutting in when you
Exactly.
when you put the throttle
Yeah.
fully down. It's
You go full throttle, it's only electric. So you have a combustion only mode as well, and an e-charge mode where the battery gets charged. So let's say you are going to a zero emission zone, you are coming towards it, you go into this mode, it charges up the battery. When you arrive there, you just go into all electric mode and you have 50, 60, 70 kilometers of all electric range.
incredible. There's something I didn't notice when we were looking at the model over there was the paddles.
Yeah.
The way they're attached, reverse attached to the rim. It's amazing. Obviously, that's because you don't have the spokes to stick them to.
Yeah, I mean, when you make a decision like that, it actually impacts a lot of stuff. So, like, how far are the pedals so that you can still put your fingers behind, but not, you know, too far that it interferes with this stalk. And same with the size of the instruments. Like, you cannot make them bigger than this because otherwise they will interfere with your fingers when you turn the steering wheel. So it has a lot of influences also on the airbag and so on. So a lot of engineering went into making this concept work. So another way how we managed to do a little bit of magic to not make the car longer was to have the seat fixed, but it does move up and down, and the backrest is moving the angle. You just cannot move the seat back and forth. And then you have moving pedals electrically, and as well as the steering wheel, and you control all of that with this doorknob here, which is also, as we call it, skeletonized. So just like these in the middle as well, you have beautiful mechanisms that you can see through crystal glass.
What's next after this? Can Bugatti could it have two model lines?
Well, Bugatti has a huge history, and with this brand you can do many things, but for now we are focused on this car. This was also, let's say, my biggest focus for the last 4 years, developing this beautiful piece. And first we need to get the car into production, which we will do in 2 years, and then we'll see what comes next.
And for you personally, what does this car mean? Because all eyes are on you. You're the new boss, and this was your vision, and with the help of thousands of people, you've brought it to fruition, but you're nearly there. What does it mean to you personally?
Yeah, I must say, I mean, first of all, the group of people we have behind it, it's really like, and you can see that, like the design team, the technical team, everyone has worked really as one. But when this, let's say, started to be as a rumor, but then became official that like this Croatian guy with electric car company is taking over, of course, very many people were concerned, and some said it to our faces and some didn't. But then when we showed the car, we heard so many people like, oh, thanks God. Like, you did the right thing, like Bugatti's
that was
back,
the Top Gear
incredible.
office. That was the Top Gear office. You heard it from all the way back in London.
No, many customers, when we presented the car, they were like, oh man, we were so concerned. But then when we saw it, it's like, it's bang on, like they couldn't believe. Like, I'm really, you know, I'm quite self-critic, and you know that I will also point out things that are not that great. But in this car, when I look around, I'm so proud of what the team has built. It's just on another level from all the aspects. I really think it will step up the game in the industry.
Yeah. Well, I think we've just made the world's longest ever YouTube video, but this car deserved it. I was so honoured actually for you to be able to take us around, show us all the detail, all the thought that had gone into every tiny thing, and the way one thing affects another decision at the back of the car. It's just fascinating. And for you to be a CEO that takes such an active interest in, you know, the test driving, the engineering, the initial sort of idea and everything, it's such a wonderful thing. With a car like this, you kind of need that kind of singular vision from the beginning. So look, great job. But just,
Thank you.
Just,
Thank you, Jack.
I'll save my mark out of 10 till we've had a go.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to leave you in here.
Thank you.
It's probably the comfiest seat in the house. Cheers, Mate.
See you. Whoop.